popping in, and Stacy will let them in as they come in. But it is a little after 1, and I want to get started because I want to give, since we have 3 alumni on the call today, I want to make sure that everybody has time to share their stories and also to allow for the students for questions. So I'm Danielle Tonner. I'm the Associate Director of Alumni Engagement. I work in, I've worked at SUNY Oneonta since 2006, and I'm a graduate as well. We have 3 amazing alumni today. We have Drew McKay, Remi, Farnan, and Tom Glennon, and I'm gonna let them, when we get to introductions, give their titles and what they do a little bit. And then the way we'll structure this is that I'll go through and ask each of them a question or 2, and then we'll leave a bulk of the time for the students to ask questions. But before we start, I want to say thank you to the School of Economics and Business, and especially to Drs. Flynn and Foley-Deno, because without them, we would not be able to do this, and we wouldn't have any students here to actually listen to our amazing alumni. And she's not with us today, but Jessica Sinopoli is one of our students, and she's also an Alumni Association board member, and she's our student liaison, and she does a lot of the legwork as well to help us coordinate these programs. So I wanted to give her a shout out. Do Drs. Flynn or Foley-Deno have anything that they would like to say before we get started?
I just want to say welcome to you guys. Thank you so much for being here. And point of clarification, it's really all Professor Deno that does all of the SEB side of the work. I really don't do any of it, but I'm happy to be here and listen to whatever, what everyone has to say. So welcome.
She's minimizing. She's very hopeful.
Well, I'm going to say ditto to what Lisa says, except it's actually Jessica who does all the work. So no, thank you so much for taking time. As I said to Drew when we first started, I think the students are going to love today's session. So thanks to all 3 of you. Nice to see you again, Remi.
Hi.
And I see most people have their cameras off. That's totally fine. I know sometimes people aren't comfortable with their cameras on, but if you do have a question, it would be great if you could turn your cameras on when we get to that part, just so that the alumni can see who's speaking to them. I'm going to go alphabetically just because that's fair, and then I don't have to worry about anybody feeling like I'm picking favorites. So we'll start with Remi, then Tom, then Drew. Just if you can take a couple minutes to talk a little bit, say when you graduated, what you do, where you work, a little bit about what it's like to work there, and then we'll ask a couple questions. So just a real quick introduction. Go ahead, Remi.
Well, I want to clarify that Danielle said she wasn't picking favorites, but she did because I'm her favorite. So I'm going to go first. So my name is Remi Farnan. I graduated Oneonta in December 2015, and I started in fall 2012. Right now, if you could see the background of my office, I work in construction management as an assistant project manager at Sciame Construction in the city. I have been at this job site for the last 4 years, and I've been working with this company for 4.5 years. And when I was at Oneonta, I did a lot. I worked at Hunt Union. I was a sister of Sigma Gamma Phi. I volunteered a lot, and I was actually Danielle's intern for a quick stint. And right now I am getting my MBA at Baruch part-time, and I actively am a member of my local junior league chapter, and I think that about covers it. Oh, and I was a member of the School in Economics and Business, and I minored in communications. No, I double majored in communications. See, I'm confused already. So, all right.
Hey everybody, I'm Thomas Glennon. I graduated class of 2009. I did Suffolk Community College for 2 years before my 3 years at Oneonta. After Oneonta, spent about 1.5 years, 2 years with various different jobs until I landed at a company called Sciame Design and Construction, working as first a assistant project manager, then a site superintendent, and then eventually a project manager, doing very much the same thing that Remi does. After working there for 6 years, I moved on to a different company, which rather than being the general contractor in charge of all the construction, I went to the owner side I went to this company called Locke Associates, and I was there for about close to 2 years. And from the owner's side, I worked on a couple Tesla superstores, several Warby Parker stores, and then Live Nation became one of the big accounts that I oversaw. And my last year at Locke Associates, Live Nation paid my company to have me as a dedicated support staff for them. As you can imagine, half a year into it, they pulled me aside and asked me if I wanted to make the jump to go direct to Live Nation, which I did. And so now I've been at Live Nation since January 1st of last year. I am the Director of Project Management. That title probably doesn't really define what I do for the company. I do everything from due diligence on potential venues that, we may or may not build. I oversee all the active construction projects. I go do anything from reviewing leases to going on site and figuring out, issues with, the overall construction. And yeah, I would say right now, we're still busy, fortunately. As you guys know, the music industry has been pretty hard hit from the pandemic. But my job's very demanding, which I like, and yeah, I'll leave it off there and pass it on to Drew.
Thanks, Tom. Drew McKay. I graduated Oneonta in 2005. I went to Oneonta undeclared. I was an undeclared major when I got there. I bounced around majors while I was in Oneonta. And mass communication, and then I finally graduated with a sociology degree. I am a senior project manager for Hunter Roberts Construction Group. They are the 5th largest construction company in New York City. I left Oneonta in 2005 with a sociology degree. When I was there, I was working at the local GNC managing that store in Southside Mall. And I transferred from that GNC store down to a store close by me in Westchester. And they were opening up a new store, constructing a new store, which I oversaw for GNC. And I kind of got the feel for construction when a friend of mine asked me to go work for them and their general construction company doing heavy civil construction. So I spent about 6 years doing heavy civil construction in Westchester County, building various types of infrastructure projects such as wastewater treatment plants, clean water treatment plants. I spent about 6 years doing that, and then I jumped over to my current employer, Hunter Roberts, where I got into more of the residential construction group. I spent about 3 years down at Ground Zero building a 64-story high-rise residential building, very high-end. And then from there, I went to Long Island, and now I'm currently finishing up a 248,000 square foot residential construction project on a larger campus of newer buildings that we're constructing out here. I'll turn it over to Danielle, and we can get going.
Great, thank you all. You kind of gave me your career path, so I don't need to ask that question. But Remi, can you talk a little bit about why you decided to get into this field? Was it planned, or what kind of guided you to this point in your career?
So from my
No, you're muted.
Sorry.
Oh, sorry. Danielle locked me out. So my undergraduate background and is very different than what I do every day here. And I fell into this through family connections. So my grandfather knows the owner of my company very well. And it's a big joke in my company, like, well, how do you know Frank to get in here? And I work with a lot of people that they're like second family to me. So we have like our little family fights. But I fell into this and I started as an admin. I moved up. Right now, I am one of 3 project managers closing out a $200 100,000 square foot structure known as the Shed in Hudson Yards. Professor Flynn's been there. She saw me on the one we did backpacks 2 years ago or last year. We were standing out in the cold looking at
It was so cold.
in my beautiful moving building. So Drew has a lot of cool things, and so does Tom, but my building moves. And thanks, Frank. I have a lot of people here, and I love building, so I kind of want to stay with it for a little bit, but it's a roller coaster every day. All right, Danielle, I'll throw it right back to you.
I'm going to ask the same question of you, Tom, and then I'll have you answer it, Drew.
Wait, what's the question again? Career path?
Yeah, career path.
Kind of well, more than career path, like, did you plan on this being your career, or, what made you decide to sort of pick project management as your career path, or what did you plan to do before that, and why did it change?
Yeah. So when I was attending Oneonta, I thought I was going to graduate and work on Wall Street, wear a suit every day, work in finance, something along those lines. I graduated, May 2009. Economy was pretty bad, not as bad as it is now, but the unemployment rate was 10%. Wall Street, was going through a shift, obviously. And so, I fell into construction management I fell into it, but I always worked in construction. From the age of 17 to 23, the whole time I went to Oneonta, I worked construction. So every month in the winter when we would go home, the 3 months in the summer, I had a full-time job, swinging a hammer. So it's something I've always done. It paid well as a young man. When I graduated, I said, all right, I got to do something in finance. I moved to San Francisco, was out there for like 4 months, came back to New York, was doing construction, moved into the city so I could get a job, doing finance because you had to be in the city. I was a waiter, I was a bar back, I was a dock master at the Northfield Marina behind the World Financial Center. Then I became a stockbroker. After 3 weeks, I became a licensed 87. I was cold calling for a week, and then I said this wasn't for me. Then I became a nighttime janitor. And while I was doing that, this company, Sciame, who I put my resume into a year prior, and I called them every day for a month, they got back to me and I got the job. I went in there, so I was familiar with the construction side, but never worked on the office side. So it was very intimidating at first, but at the end of the day, you're building something. So I picked up on it real quick. I've always liked building. I always liked, being involved in construction. So it really, I just kind of fell into it, but my history just it made it a good fit for me. I also didn't know that type of industry existed on that level. I always did, houses in the Hamptons or, big mansions, never big commercial construction. And then when I was there, the company I work for has this CMST program where you do a year in estimating, a year in project management, a year in the field. I didn't do too much time in estimating. I actually was probably a little more qualified than most people thought. So they kept me in the field much longer, which I will say paid dividends, because when you're working the field directly with the guys doing the work, you actually learn a lot more stuff. And so when it comes to construction, I'm very knowledgeable. And then, I still do construction. I'm just on a different piece in the puzzle, and,
I work for
it.
Tom.
I would hire
Drew's
company or Remi's company. But no, I'm actually a good owner's rep because I spent so much time on the GC side that when it comes time for me to work with them, I know if they know what they're talking about, and I know how to work with them because I understand, there's only so much you can control. So, in general, I fell into it, but at the same time, I've always really liked it, and this is kind of how, everything came about. So, and here I am.
Yeah, so to kind of connect the dots here, Tom actually so I would work for somebody like Tom, and my construction company we built Red Bull Stadium. So those types of projects I would be in charge of the construction side of it, and Tom would be in charge of the owner, money end, who's paying me, overseeing all the consultants. So, you know, I would work for somebody like Tom, or the client being somebody like Tom.
Actually, Danielle, can I share the screen? I can draw it out. I have to explain this to people. So there's like 3 levels of construction typically, and I could draw it out. Hold on. So you have an owner who hires somebody like Tom, an owner's rep, who then oversees like a design team. So those people can be architects, engineers, consultants. So everything has a consultant. So if you wanted to do electrical work, you have electrical consultants. And then they also manage construction. And then underneath construction, you have somebody like me and Drew who work for general contractors or construction managers. And then under that, we have all of our subcontractors. So I have laborers that do laborers, we have people that build walls, they're carpenters. We have, on my job, we have a lot of weird people. We have marine people building acoustic shades. So it's basically a construction manager manages everything, and then essentially like interacts back and forth with the design team to build something for the owners rep to pay for. So
yeah, and just to speak
dynamic.
to the owner's side, so, you know, there is the design team. So typically I'll do a budget, we'll approve it, we'll hire a designer to do the design. Then there's an architect, there's an mechanical, electrical, and plumbing engineer I hire, there's a structural engineer I hire. I'll hire an expediter. I'll also probably hire a mechanical consultant. I have my own lighting design people. So I have probably about like 8 other consultants that work directly for me, and their job is to put together, you know, a set of drawings, which is what Drew and Remi can build price off of. On top of all that stuff, I also provide a lot of the stuff myself. Like my last job with Irving Plaza, I bought the majority of the mechanical equipment, you know, so the owner side can get, you know, there's a lot of different moving pieces. So
that's how the owner saves money. So I can't mark it up.
yeah, you could say that.
It's my owner's reps on my company. For my project, my owner's reps were very close. So it's a lot of joking around. Oh, I know. Thank you. So it's very cool because sometimes you can get a bad owner's rep, or you can get a bad like subcontractor, but as long as you have like a really good owner's rep that like mitigates everything, it works out. Because design team people and construction people often clash, as I've come to realize lately. So
Yeah.
they're kind of like the mediator, and you have 2 people kind of just fighting it out sometimes. So Tom's job's really important. I would never be able to do Tom's job, that's for sure. He has a tougher job than
there's a lot of moving pieces in the overall process of inception to completion. And you're never going to get an all-star team. There's always going to be a weak link. And, you know, what we do is we manage through it. You know, we figure a way around it, and, you know, nothing ever is as you think it's going to be. You open a wall up, you dig a hole, you find something, and it's just something you got to manage through. And typically we have deadlines to hit and figure it out, you know, keep you on your toes all the time.
It's a lot of problem solving. And what I found is I didn't go to school. I didn't go to Oneonta for business. I didn't go to Oneonta for construction management. I didn't go to, you know, Oneonta for business management. I went to Oneonta, like I said, undeclared, not knowing what I wanted to do. You know, bouncing around all those different liberal arts, degrees up there. And then I finally settled on a sociology degree. And quite frankly, it's probably best suited for me because what I learned in Oneonta, that's, you know, strategically helped me in the construction industry with sociology is that I'm dealing with, in my position as a senior project manager in my firm, I'm dealing with the billionaire owners who require a certain type of finesse or interaction with. And I'm also dealing with the pipe fitter who's installing, all the piping for the kitchen sinks. And that also is a very different dynamic than the billionaire owner. And it takes a certain type of finesse to deal with that person. So that's where the sociology kind of kicks in, and the interactions between those individuals are very different. And my academic career has significantly helped me manage those complex relationships and situations so that I can get what I need out of all of those individuals in order to build a 64-story building or, 146 unit apartment complex. It's a people game. It's a people business. And you have to be a people person. I also, one aspect that I thoroughly love is that I'm not at my desk all day. I don't sit at my desk a majority of the day. I'll probably spend an hour in the morning. My mornings start at around 6:30. I usually spend from 6:30 to 8 o'clock in the morning at my desk, answering emails, checking plans, looking, what the plan is. Right now I'm turning over apartments to the owner. So it's, I'm kind of doing punch list stuff and coming up with a plan. And then I spend a majority of my day in the field, walking the buildings, walking the units, seeing the work getting put in place, strategizing on how to turn over more apartments per week than last week, and what are we going to do next week. And I'm always trying to think ahead so that I can steer my team of other project managers and assistant project managers accordingly. We all, the teams here are divided into, I'd like to divide them into different trades, giving PMs free reign on certain trains, whether it's mechanicals and the engineers, or whether it's, the finished trades as the mill workers or the carpenters. We all have a role to play, and I kind of oversee all of that. As I said in my introduction, I did not go to Oneonta for construction, didn't even know about project management at all. And I kind of just fell into it, and I fell in love with it. And, it really is a great occupation. My days are long. There are very good days. And I have some very bad days, but it's different every single day. And that's another big thing, is my day from Monday to Friday, it's very different.
You work Saturdays.
He is
No,
right. I do work
Saturday,
Saturdays.
Sunday.
I do work Saturdays.
Yeah.
I would say what's very common in the construction industry is most people did not go to school for it. Most people went to school and kind of fall into it. It's not really talked a lot about. A lot of people don't go into college thinking they're going to work in construction management. But it does pay really well.
Yeah,
absolutely.
absolutely.
There's a lot of different aspects of the business that you could fall into. You may not want to be a people's person. That's the project manager's kind of role. Estimators, are the backbone of the industry, and they're kind of more just looking at drawings and getting prices and bids, and they don't, there's not as much communication with the owner. Yeah, they crunch the numbers. There are people who are assistant project managers, and they're very comfortable staying out there. They don't want to be a project manager, and and that's fine. There's a lot of roles that have to get filled. So construction in general is a very diverse, there's different roles to play, very much like a Wall Street bank. There's people in the front of house doing sales. Yeah. There's people in the back of house doing, quant stuff. So that's something to keep in mind when you think about construction and just overall how the different roles.
Tom's absolutely right, because I mean, in my team alone, I have project accountants who are the finance guys, and they are not people persons.
Like,
but I can't do my job without them, and
Yeah.
I need them, you know, and so I work closely with those accountants to help, you know, track the budgets. And I mean, imagine how much it costs. I mean, it costs, you know, $300 million to build a 64-story building. Somebody's got to keep track of the money, and so that's where you get but the teams are very diverse with lots of different people. The accountants, like Tom said, the estimating department that's the guys behind the curtain. They get me the jobs to build. They crunch those numbers. They put together the bids. You know, you have, you know, the executive teams, which are more people. You have the IT departments in construction companies. We employ a tremendous amount of technological people that, like, you know, my whole job is digital. I have digital plans. I have a digital plan table. I couldn't do any of that without my IT people and my IT department. And those are all, you know, construction-based IT people. And that's the great thing about project management, is you can get into construction and get into it as a project engineer or project manager, assistant project manager, and you can go horizontal, meaning that your career, you can pivot to different aspects of construction that isn't management, like accounting or, you know, purchasing, you know, the people that buy all the stuff. I have a purchasing agent in my project team that goes out to various subcontractors and actually writes the contracts for me. You can pivot as you see fit, or you can, if you're satisfied, you can, you know, pivot, you know, vertically, you know, going from a project engineer to an assistant project manager to a senior project manager to a project executive to a project director. That's the vertical movement of project management within construction. So it gives you a lot of options.
So Drew, so I got a good question for you. I'll ask the question actually. You know, the variety of different people, we talked about all the roles, right? What do you look for in young candidates that come to work at Hunter Roberts? What do you see in young people when you hire them? Because, you know, like we said, people don't always come, or typically don't come with construction backgrounds.
No,
so what is it that you look for?
Most of the people that we hire don't really have a construction background. I look for somebody who's a go-getter, somebody who's dedicated, somebody who has the drive and the want, because I can supply the how. And that's part of the growth of being somebody who's a quote unquote green. That's what we call them in construction. We call them green. Those people, those young kids, are the backbone of the teams, and they have to be driven. They have to want to be here, and that's really what I look for, Tom. I can teach anybody construction.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that's easy. Reading, I can teach somebody how to read a plan, you know, read some drawings. I can teach them how to do that. I can teach them, you know, what goes where and the sequence of operations and how something's built from the ground to the end. But it's the drive and the determination of the kids that come in that you can't really teach. You have to want it. Yeah. And you have to be dedicated. I mean, construction is a tough industry, and it's like I said before, it's tough, but it is tremendously rewarding, both financially and personally. I mean, I take a lot of pride in what I do. I build a lot of cool stuff. I mean, you know, in Westchester where I grew up, I passed by treatment plants or bridges that we built. And you know, I say to my kids, oh, you know, dad, you know, built this bridge, or dad, you know, built that wastewater treatment plant. And then when I went into, you know, the high-rise residential, you know, to bring my kids down to downtown Manhattan and show them, you know, 50 West, which is the 64-story building I built that. not myself, but I had a strategic and really important role in creating that piece of architecture. And then out in Long Island, same thing. I mean, it's that pride that you look for in young candidates. Because I mean, right now we're not really hiring because of the pandemic, but when I first came here to this project 3 years ago, I mean, I must have hired 40 kids straight out of school to support the project team. And each one of those kids had a very different background, but each one of those kids brought the drive, the determination, and the want, which is what we were looking for.
Also, just I work for a very small firm. So Hunter Roberts is one of the biggest ones you could work for. And so Drew has a lot of people where everyone has a basic role. So when he was listing off like what one person's job is, for me, I get to do absolutely everything, which is a little maddening. So it blows my mind that you could have more than a couple people. So right now on my job, we're in a closeout phase. So we've built our building's open. We have a lot of issues. We have a lot of things to work out. So it's me and one other person every day who took off today. Usually he would get into stuff like this with me. But so I do buying out of trades, reviewing trade documents. I like to dabble as a super, which is very interesting because I'm a girl. I'm very little compared to the guys that I'm yelling at all day long. And then I get to do the money and I get to do the meetings with our architects and the owners. So for me, since I work at a very small company, relatively small, we're less than 100 people, I get to do a full experience, and my owner's rep is like, that's the cheapest vice president they have over there. So it's really awesome because if I were to ever go and leave my company, I would have a full gambit of experience where I could be able to jump and do anything, which is cool. I take it for granted sometimes when I'm working on Saturday. I'm like, oh, here I am watching some guys put up some drywall, but it's really awesome to know that I could do absolutely anything. And I learned how to read drawings from the carpenters whose chairs I'm sitting in now, which is really awesome because if you ever want to learn anything, you go right to the carpenter foreman and you play dumb girl and you're like, I don't know how to do this. Can you please tell me everything? So even within the last year and a half, I know exactly how to build something, and eventually with time, you'll be able to see, well, that's not very right. Somebody should change it to this. And when you get to that level and you walk away at the end of the day, you just know everything, and it's really awesome.
So, oh, go ahead.
Should we open it up for questions?
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, it's 1:36, and if we have any students that have a question, if you just want to unmute yourself, and we will let you go ahead and ask questions, or I can ask another one. So, or if either of the professors have a question to ask. Don't be shy.
Hi, my name is Stephanie Menudis. I have a question for Remi. You said you're getting your MBA. So what is that like, getting your MBA while you're working? And would you have preferred to have gotten it like straight out of school and then started working?
So to give a little background on how I decided to do my MBA, my job was opening to the public and was in 24-hour-a-day work mode in December 2018. I got accepted to Baruch in December 2018. I started working 24 hours a day, going to school part-time January 2019. And I wouldn't trade that semester for anything. It was amazing. I would say if you want to get your MBA, wait a little bit, and definitely there's no joke. There's so much work to be done, but it is the best to be able to learn something in your class and then try to practice it in your everyday life. And if you ask anyone I work with, when I stay here late at night and I do classes online, like I'm the happiest I've ever been doing my MBA, which is lame, but I love school. So do it a couple years after you start working for sure. Don't wait. Don't do it immediately.
Yeah, you should take a couple years before getting, your master's or something like that, because you'll have more time to see how the world operates and what you really are gravitated towards. It takes a few years to figure that out,
Like
And
they
it's
say,
also,
if you don't know, don't go, right?
yeah, it's expensive, trust me.
And it's
I
not
pay,
fair.
I
Yeah.
live at home still, so I can pay tuition every month. So I'm essentially just paying what I would pay in rent to school. And I love my MBA and I'm doing so well. And everyone here at work is so proud of me. Like I'll come in, we'll put stuff on the fridge, like my good grades. So it's the best.
That's awesome. But does anybody else have a question before I ask another question myself?
I have a question. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, Chris.
All right. So, sorry, I'm not able to turn on video, but that's why I put a little picture there. I have a question for Tom, Glennon. Myself, I'm a music industry major, and I heard that you are the project manager for Live Nation. So, how has the pandemic affected your job specifically, and how have you bounced back from all the hardship that it provided?
Well, the story is still being written. So when everything happened, I would say that, Mike Rapino, our CEO, did a very commendable job by not, furloughing or laying anyone off for some time. That's the first thing they did right away. We've now gone through 2 rounds of furloughs. I would say 50% of our construction, or my project that I've called project development team, has been furloughed. When things, I would say probably March, April, on top of everything I have to do daily, it was, hey, how much money are we going to spend this year on this? Can we bring that back a couple $100,000? Can we put this off till then? So it's been a real scramble. We've been trying to just kind of manage everything and get a handle on stuff. A lot of projects have been pushed another year. Some projects are still going to go or happen because of there's been deals made, like for instance, House of Blues Las Vegas. We've already put $3.5 million in escrow to build out, the restaurant renovation, half our money, half MGM's money. So that is a real sticky situation you can't get out of. But I've got a project in Brooklyn we've been working on for a year now, still undecided if we're going to go forward. It would probably be overall like a $47 million project. And the direction was that we're going to not start that until 2022, which I was actually pretty happy with, because it is an old theater and things are going a little too fast. There's a lot of stuff that has to happen there. So, things are tight, without concerts, without a definitive timeline, it's hard to say. I opened a project in Dallas. The first show was supposed to be May 1st. Dallas reopened, and then it was going to be in August, and, there's been no show there. It's a real beautiful building. Irving Plaza, we're just wrapping it up there, and everyone's like, when are you going to start? And we don't know. So, things are, in general, what we're doing is we're streaming, concerts from our venues, but, it's just the band there. We're renting our venues out for, movie shoots, whatever we can. I know that the VPs, the GMs, all those people on the operations side, which, I'm not really on that side, but I deal with them a lot. Everything is, we got to go to touchless this, touchless that. We were trying to do more cups to be, more environmentally friendly. Now we're going back to one touch use everything. One of the first calls I got on all the builds are, do we have touchless and everywhere? Faucets, this and that. And so there's been a real shift overall in just the way the world operates, and more importantly, music venues. But I do think that, next summer to some scale, there'll be concerts. Things will pick back up for us, but, story's still being written. Oh, I hope I answered that question. If I didn't, just let me know.
No, you did. Thank you very much.
And it's also a tough time for the artists too. I mean, you know, look, we want to get people back in the venues, but the artists want to get back out there for their fans. And, you know, touring is really how musicians make money these days, you know, not, you know, like in the 70s when you put out a good CD. So, yeah.
Of course, of course. Thank you very much.
Yep.
Anyone else have a question?
Yeah, Danielle, it's Charlene. I got a question that primarily I'll direct it to Drew because he said the words, but any one of you could certainly weigh in. When Drew said he's looking for someone who's hungry, if you will. He's looking for, you know, that person who's going to be the dynamic fit to the team. There's a fine line between being a little bit laid back and being a little bit too crazy for the job. What are some guidance, some buzzwords you could give our students so they appear to be that hungry student? They're bringing their best foot forward, but in a non-crazy kind of way. How would you, what words could they say in their cover letter, or what could they say in an interview so that you're saying, yeah, there's my person?
A nice buzzword is collaborative.
Ooh, driven. That's a good one.
Driven, collaborative, leader. I mean, those three are really sharp buzzwords that anybody should put on their resume.
High energy. That's what they tell me. I have too much. I have high energy.
I would avoid saying high energy.
That's what they tell, like, you are ready. I feel like, because I'm up until a year or two ago, I was the youngest person at my company still, and I was 24 and I was still the youngest, and we just started hiring people out of college. Typically, my company has the same people that have been working there for 30 years. So it's a tough group to get in. And what we're doing now is trying to get people that are really good at multitasking. And you have to be able to, I keep forgetting what they try to say. It's just somebody that is extremely open to new,
embraces change.
Yes, you have to be really versatile, and you have to be really, not malleable, but you have to just kind of like go with the flow. So for example, I have spent thousands of hours on something, and then all of a sudden it's like, by the way, you can't do this anymore. And you have to be like, okay, I just had all of this time, let me throw it at something else. Like, that happens a lot.
So I'll try to sum this up real quick and easy, because I just actually pulled up my resume. And for everybody, I've been at my company for 6 years now. My resume is up to date all the time. And no matter how comfortable you are, wherever you are, make sure your resume is up to date. I'll give you the top portion of how my resume reads, all right? Collaborative leader with project management expertise, delivers quality products and services with a committed budget and schedule through diligent and effective resource management, effective communication across project teams, and strategic problem solving. Strong team motivator, embraces change, accountability, and productively navigates complex project issues to impact smart business decisions. Extensive experience managing multi-million-dollar construction projects, successful negotiation skills to effectively buy out subcontractors and vendors. That's how the top few sentences of my resume reads.
Hey, Danielle, I'll on Monday, I can email you my resume you can share with the folks on this call. I'm fine with that. Unlike Drew, I do not keep mine up to date. The last 2 job transfers, it was more of a formality than it was. I will say when I make the shift, it's usually people are begging me to come, you know, leave my company to come to them. So it's been, but I did update it. When I did update it, I was like, oh, wow, I gotta, and mine does go 2 pages now. As you get older and you have more work experience, it is acceptable to have a 2-page resume. Just to touch on what people look for when hiring from my standpoint, I will be honest with you, when I look through resumes, I just breeze through them. I'm more looking for how the person handles the interview. I mean, look, I want someone who's got a good work ethic, someone who's a hard worker and demonstrates it by, you know, was active in sports and also worked full time, went to school and worked full time. You know, that's important to me because that means someone's got, you know, a good work ethic means they, you know, they have the drive to get whatever in front of them done. And, you know, what I call the X factor is if I ask you to go get me something out of the closet and you go in there, you open the door and shut it, come back and you say it's not in there, that person doesn't have the X factor. If someone has the X factor, they'll open the door, they won't see it, they'll take everything out, but they can't find it, they'll put it back in, then they'll go to the doors right next to either door and look in there and do the same thing and come back and say, look, I couldn't find it, but I did this, I did that, I did this, and you know, it wasn't there. To me, that's someone who is just not taking my direction verbatim. They're actually understanding and they're gonna figure out how to, you know, get to the solution there. And then look, young people, you're constantly learning. I'm even learning every day, and I plan on doing that for the rest of my life. That's just the way it works. But when you go and have to do something, you know, you should be able to come back and say, hey, I this may not be right, but this is my mindful process. This is why I did this. You know, you're explaining how you went about solving the problem. And even if you weren't right, you know, I would still appreciate someone who comes to me and they were thinking things through and they have a reason for it. Instead of someone saying like, the guy said he couldn't do it, and so, you know, what do you want me to do? You know?
That's what I tell my team.
Who,
don't come to me with your problems. Yeah. Come to me with your solutions. I will help you navigate those problems.
That's probably the most important thing I would say is going to get you forward ahead of your career. You know, that's how you move up the chain fast.
Tom, the guy I would hire would go to the admin who's sitting next to that closet, who knows where everything is in that closet, and she would get it for me. Because she knows where everything is in that closet. That's thinking right there.
Yeah. Yeah, and look, I've got no qualms with like the NYUs of the world, but I've noticed in my life the people who've gone to SUNY schools are a bit hungrier, rather than you know kids who went to these private schools. They think they're coming in 9 to 5 and you know taking an hour lunch and you know think things should be handed to them. So that's my personal opinion. So I always look for SUNY candidates over private school students.
So when I first started working here and I first started to pick up on certain things that no one really thought that I could, because I'm not going to lie, being a woman in a very male dominated industry is not for everyone. I thankfully have a very good personality to deal with it, but we had another girl as a assistant project manager. She lasted on this job for 2 months. She couldn't handle it. But somebody was like, so like which somebody was like, so when you were at NYU, and I was like, I didn't go to NYU. They're like, oh, like where'd you go? Like you must have went to like, they were listing off a bunch of programs at other schools. And I was like, I went to SUNY Oneonta. And he was just like, oh, a state school? I said, yeah, I went to a really great state school and I'm getting my master's at a really great state. Like I'm getting my master's out of CUNY. I would not trade my CUNY or SUNY undergraduate or graduate experience for anything in the world, because as an Oneonta grad, you know so much. Oh, hi, Steve. You know so much about, you are completely well-rounded. You are given all of the tools to be one of the best people in the workforce that you could ever be.
I completely agree with that, Remi.
Yeah. Like there is no way that any SUNY Oneonta Red Dragon graduates without being involved in clubs, going to the library, able to have fun with your friends, and making pretty decent grades. You would be hard pressed to find somebody not like that came out of Oneonta and become super successful in whatever they choose to, because they have the mindset and the experience and the support of fellow Red Dragons.
And Remi, just to let you know, the top performing project manager on my job is a woman.
No way. Oh,
Yep.
Please. I have a group of people. Can you say that to them?
So.
Just be like, here, she's great. So I actually am the only woman on my project team. And I have, to date, I have 4 executive vice presidents working on this job. and 5 other project managers. They're all men. So it's very tough. If you are a girl that wants to get into it, you have to be super on it and on top of it, and you have to really like fall in love with it to stay with it.
It's a love. You're absolutely right about that.
It's a love. It's definitely a love.
Oh, I didn't even pay you to say all that, Remi, about SUNY Oneonta. Nice work.
But that's why I'm your favorite. So.
I plead the fifth on that one. We have a couple more minutes, maybe time for one more question. If I don't want to cut off any of the students if they want to get any last thing in.
I have another question, I guess. I could go for one. Remi, you did mention that while you were here in SUNY Oneonta, you were part of Sigma Gamma Phi, a sorority that still persists to this day. So
Yep.
how have you been involved in the sorority helped you after you graduated?
So a little quick fact, even though Oneonta was my last choice school, I did not want to go there. I wanted to go to a big school. It was my last choice school. My dad, I'm the oldest. I have 2 younger sisters. My dad drove me up and he drove me to Binghamton. We got out of the car at Binghamton. It was dark, cold, and rainy. I cried. He was like, okay, we're going to go to Oneonta. And I was like, I don't want to. I want to go to Tampa. So we get out of the car at Oneonta. The sun literally shined over Hunt Union Pond. And I knew, whatever, this is fine. Dad's going to make me go. I'm going to love it. I met the girls from Thusa. Was back then, we called it Thusa. They don't do it anymore. My RA was a sister of Sigma Gamma Phi, and she started to be like, oh, like, you definitely would like it. I really clicked with her, and I met the girls. And when people like make fun of the Greek life experience, I really found the people that I'm so lame, I love it. I really found the people that I will always be friends with for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
I have met amazing people through it. I was on the Intergreek Council as an e-board position. I met so many great, like, other like-minded students, and I made friends across all organizations. And to this day, I plan reunions for girls in Thusa in the city. We all go out to happy hour. We all just bought season tickets to the Rangers together. And it's just a really awesome experience because you have people that can be your friends, but then also people that can help you in your career, or people that will come help you study. Or my friends, when this building was under construction, would come and see me every couple months, and they would be like, oh my God, Remi built something. And she used to just boss us around at chapter all the time. So it's awesome.
So,
I hope I answered your question. It's the best experience ever.
I'll give you how Greek. I was in a fraternity in Oneonta. It was an off-campus fraternity. It's not there anymore. Phi Delta Theta, and those are some of my best friends. They were, my best men in my wedding. And as we graduated, we kind of all went our separate ways in separate industries. And one of my fraternity brothers ended up going to work for Red Bull, and he was instrumental in getting me a contact at Red Bull so that my company could build the new Red Bull Stadium. Yeah. So that's kind of how that kind of dynamic just so happens, and it's all about networking and who you know, and kind of building those relationships over the course of your life. And that was a tremendous project for us, and all thanks to this one connection I had through a fraternity brother that I went to school with 20 years ago.
That's awesome. Thank you very much, both of you.
What organization are you in? You have to be in an organization to ask a question like that, for sure.
Well, I ask because everybody, like, my perspective of Greek life is like, if I were to be on it, then I want the people there and the connections I make to benefit my professional career, not only my undergraduate experience.
You definitely will find it. You're currently in what?
I am in Beta Chi. and I am
Okay.
currently
Yeah.
the new member and community service chair of the Intergreek Council too.
That's what my position was. Oh my God. See, it's crazy. The girl that was in my position before, 2 years before me, she set me up with an internship on campus afterwards, not with Danielle. I just love Danielle. I'll follow Danielle everywhere. But it's crazy to think the people that you're having such a good time with now will truly come in clutch for you. Like, you would have no idea. I'm sure, since right now I'm only a couple years out of school, I'm sure when we get older, it's going to be a crazy time. And a lot of my sorority sisters went into teaching, so it's a little different for me, but.
Of course. Thank you very much for the information and everything. I really
No
much appreciate it.
problem.
I would hire Remi back any day of the week if I could, for sure.
I would work for Danielle for free though.
Ooh, we are down a position. If I told Laura that, you know.
She'd be like, Remi needs more to do.
They call that volunteering, Remi.
That's what I do. Oh my God. No, but Danielle would pay me in her love and adoration and her motherly just care. So I could do that.
So
And
as
we can all
a side
eat
note,
cookies.
as a side note to all the current students, Tom, Remi, and myself all serve on the alumni board. So, you know,
We're always looking for volunteers
Yeah.
for anything.
even when you
and-
graduate, stay involved
yeah.
in the community, in the alumni association. We have a fantastic alumni association with some fantastic alumni, as you can see, who are always willing to help you. And that network is better than any network that you'll ever find. I always look for SUNY Oneonta graduates when I'm hiring people. Always. They get put straight to the top. And
One of my, speaking of that, the first girl that I met on campus in orientation in Toby Hall, she graduated Oneonta with a 5-year degree in accounting. She works at my company on a different project, and everyone's like, she's the best thing you ever gave us. And I was like, I can give you more great things if you need them, as long as they're Oneonta grads. So
stay involved.
You stay involved. Seriously, it's the best because you get so many wonderful connections, and the best part is you get to do events, you get to meet wonderful alumni. I wouldn't have never met Drew and Tom just like in college at all because we didn't overlap, but it's great to know that I joined an organization that
Connected us.
I do have to go. I have my team meeting at 2:00 and everyone is texting me and knocking on my door. But it was so nice to talk to all of you guys, and it's nice to see some little cube faces. And if you need my contact information, I'm sure Danielle, you can give it out, whatever you all would like. And good luck doing it now. I will. So I'm sure it's even worse when you're undergrad. All right. Bye, guys.
Thank you, Remi. Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Drew. I really appreciate your time, and thanks to all the students who joined us and those who asked questions. Great questions. And again, if you need contact information, go ahead and email me and I will get that to you. Have a great afternoon.
All right. Thanks.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you,
Thanks, everybody.
guys. Thank
Have a
you
good
very
one.
much.
Bye.